Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm Megan Fox with pjmedia.com, and I'm going to read to you today. It's time to read. And this is the article that I tried to put up yesterday, but I had technical problems and it refused to show you the audio for some reason. So I'm just going to have to do it again, but that's okay. And today's article comes from New York Magazine. And if you remember, New York Magazine is the same magazine where Jessica Pressler wrote the expose on Anna Delvey. Anna Anna Sorokin. She's the one who was in, they made the movie Inventing Anna about the fake German heiress who scammed a bunch of people out of a lot of money, never paid hotel bills. But what was interesting to me about the depiction of that story was Jessica Pressler and her journalistic ethics, which were pretty dodgy to me. She used a lot of access journalism and, basically by threatening people to say, if you don't cooperate with my story, I'm just going to print bad stuff about you, basically. Now, I don't know if Jessica Pressler actually did that, but she had a lot to do with that Netflix movie. And you would think that she would have objected to portraying her in that way, but they sure did. They portrayed her in a way that seemed really unethical, and that stuff does happen in journalism. It happens a lot. Those people at the New York Times were involved in some very shady stuff against James O'Keefe and Project Veritas with Hunter, with the not Hunter, with the Biden diary thing. I don't know if you know about that, but we won't get into it. It doesn't matter. But journalists are generally, some of the worst people on earth, which, makes it difficult for those of us who do journalism and try to be ethical and try and not, do things that would be considered bad form. But anyway, I found this article and it's called Three Cosmos and a Poodle Dance with Candace Bushnell. And just like that, she tried to Irish exit. This is by Brock, what's his last name? Brock Colliar. And I just don't know what the purpose of this article was. It just came out a couple days ago. And an Irish exit, by the way, if you haven't heard, is kind of a derogatory term. It means someone who leaves a party without saying goodbye, usually because they're too drunk. And I'm not going to read the whole article because it's super long and it's boring. But what I am going to do is read the parts that I find interesting. So it's basically just like one of these out on the town in New York City articles on what it's like. And so actually, I'm not sure if this journalist is a male or female. I'm just going to say he, because the name Brock sounds like a male name, but who knows these days? But I'm not doing it intentionally. I just don't know. And so, but you have to say that because otherwise, I'm doing some kind of misgendering, which I'm not doing. All right. Anyway, so it basically just goes through this journalist night out with Candace Bushnell, and she brings some friends. And by the way, if you're ever invited by some New York journalist to go to a bar with them, yeah, don't do it. Just don't do it because their intentions are never what they say they are. I'm sure that this guy called Candace and was like, "Oh, I can't wait I want to do this article with you about your nightlife and, how you party and it's going to be so great. It'll be a feature piece on you." And then he gets her drunk and high and writes bad stuff about her, basically. It kind of makes me mad. Like, I don't know Candace Bushnell. I don't know if she's a nice person or not. But I don't like it when journalists take liberties like this and do these kinds of things and do these like magazine spreads, basically gossiping about the person that they talked into having, a night out with. I find it to be kind of repulsive. All right, so they go to a bar. It's called Blonde. Nicole Miller, the fashion designer, shows up to hang out with Candace. So they're like name dropping. There's like Real Housewives talk. They're talking about being kicked out of a gay piano bar in Midtown for drunkenly hogging the mic. And then Candace is saying, "My friends are crazy. They're all still crazy." And I think he's trying to highlight that Candace Bushnell is still kind of living the single girl life, even in her 60s. She's still hanging out at bars, still doing drugs even. Apparently she talks about liking coke, but she's scared of fentanyl, so I guess everybody should be scared of fentanyl, by the way. They are tainting everything with it, and you will die. You will literally die if you take it, so please don't do drugs. All right. So I'm gonna skip past all this because it's just boring, and we're gonna get to the part where he gets her drunk and starts saying things about her that's bad. Okay, here we go. 9:45 PM. This is just all right, I'll just read the whole paragraph. In the 80s, you could walk down the street and have sex. You could do it in the elevator between the 15th and the 31st floor, Candace says. I don't mention that this might even be easier if she were my age today with our various sluttiness enabling apps. Still, as much as she wants to get laid, she admits, I don't think I can have sex without falling in love. So she's definitely not a Samantha. For every time she brags about living a life without the traditional trappings of feminine domesticity, she also makes a bleak joke about offing herself. Do you know where I can get some fentanyl? If she doesn't get what she wants. As for her other cravings, no one's going to give me any drugs, she says half jokingly as we exchange silent but knowing looks about the crowd that's filling out the dance floor. I lend her my weed pen, though she warns me that THC won't get her high. That was at 9:45. Now at 9:57. Well, Candace is pretty stoned. Add in another cosmopolitan, our third, and she's quick to gossip about some of the women she knows. One is a sex fiend, one is dumb, one's a stoner, one's surprisingly quite pretty, and another did way too much blow back in the day. All of them are current or former Real Housewives of New York. We both complain about how And Just Like That tries too hard to be woke, especially Che Diaz. But then Candace says a few questionable things herself. Stop, I have to go off the script here. So this journalist, he gets her drunk and high, and then gets her to talk about And Just Like That and the woke stuff and how bad it is, but is looking for any opportunity to drag her for the same thing. For saying problematic things. Like what is questionable? What does he mean by questionable? Like it's not a free country and you don't have the right to speak your mind about whatever it is you think about anything. Who are we looking to decide what we have to say is questionable or not? You know, I'm so tired of this. That's the whole thing about being woke. That's why woke sucks and everybody hates it so much, because everyone's policing everyone else's speech. Like this guy gets her drunk and high, and now he's going to report things that she said that he says are questionable. Well, sir, maybe it's because she's drunk and high. I don't know. Wild guess. Here's the questionable things she said, according to this guy. First, complaining that she has the smallest house in Sag Harbor, and then about the fact that she's a straight white female, a straight white cis female. I hate it as much as you do. What? So that's the questionable thing she said? What makes that questionable? And he doesn't go into it. I mean, complaining that she has the smallest house in Sag Harbor. Well, she's a privileged woman. So that's the kind of things that privileged rich people say, you know? Like, why is that questionable? That's her life. So what? So what? 10:18 p.m. For a brief moment, Candace and I consider abandoning the blonde, because she tells me she'd like to go somewhere where people look like they're on The Bachelor, and currently the club is full of basic bitches, though to me that's kind of the Bachelor. I agree with that. Despite my pleas and a few moments in which I feel she's ready to give in, we ultimately decide to stay put, and Candace, again sucking on my weed pen, does what she calls her poodle dance, turning her hands into limp paws and waving them in front of her. Again, I don't find any of this entertaining, to get an older woman drunk and high and then make fun of her. Who at New York Magazine thought this was a good idea? And why did Candace agree to do this interview? And I hope she'll never agree to do another one again, because this is just wrong and it gets worse. 10:28 p.m. To entertain ourselves, Candace decides we should probably do my job and figure out who these Bodega mule-wearing blondes and their preppy boy toys at the club are. Let's randomly talk to people, she yells, zipping across the room and heading straight at a tall Judd Apatow type at the bar. Why are you here? What attracted you to being here? She questions him, and the man, seemingly peeved at two people he's clearly not interested in asking him questions, replies simply, it feels like 2007. Candace moves on, but not before giving me some career advice. Is your recorder on? It should be. Why is he having her talk in all caps, like she's shouting all the time? Maybe she's shouting because the bar is loud, because it's a dance club? I mean, look how he's making her look. It's very weird. 10:30 p.m. Next up, we talk to a group of stilettoed girlfriends who give middling reviews of the blonde. Pre-COVID, the blonde was cool, one says. Another admits that she only came here tonight because she couldn't get into vibey places like Temple Bar or the Nines. Candace quietly exits the conversation and, unbeknownst to me, the building. She's awesome, but she was also like, shut the fuck up, I don't have time for this conversation, the girl says. Which only makes me like Candace more. 10:54 p.m. According to Nicole, who is still here sipping a cocktail, Candace made an Irish exit. But when I head downstairs for a cigarette, I find her wobbling back inside, unable to get a car. When she hands me her phone, I update the Uber app, switch out her expired credit card for Apple Pay, and walk her to the car when it arrives 2 minutes later. We've all been there, darling. Oh, it's so condescending. Like, it's so condescending. Why are you writing about her like this? Like, what? So if you've been there too, would you like someone to write about you wobbling and not being able to find a car and like you're just making her look like old and inept? What is the purpose of this? So then he goes on to just he keeps on writing about this club after Candace left. But I mean, do you guys see what I'm talking about? I frankly think that this kind of journalism is total bullshit. It's just gossip is what it is. It's gossip. And I hate it. So don't forget to check out the merch store because how do I get myself off the screen? I can't. I always do this. But don't forget to check out the merch store because there's a lot of fun things, including an I Survived and Just Like That with group therapy mug and wine cooler. And I know a bunch of you are excited about that and going to be getting yours very soon. They're out for delivery. I hear from a bunch of you. Make sure that you let me know. You can always send me a DM on Twitter at Megan Fox Writer if you want to send me a picture of you using your new merch. I will share with the channel if you're comfortable with that. Otherwise, or just send me a picture of the merch and I'll share with the channel. I'm going to be back later. I'm still working on more videos. I know I have to get to Steve and Miranda part 3. I know a bunch of you are waiting for that. Don't forget to join our book club every Friday night at 5 p.m. I am reading from Candace Bushnell's Sex and the City, the original book that sparked the series on HBO that we all loved. And it's so far been really interesting. I'm on chapter 6 now. Next Friday will be the chapter 6, and it's about Mr. Big. And we're getting to know Sex and the City through Candace Bushnell's eyes, and it is a lot different than the show that we all saw. So tune in if you haven't on Friday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a happy hour with me when I read to you from Sex and the City. It is so much fun. So, that's it for me today, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.